Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
Wake up! A very loud female voice rang out, followed by a multitude of terrified screams. To be honest, I didn't scream from fear, only because I was so terrified it took my breath away. A quick glance around revealed I was in a strange, cage-like structure. Why do these idiots pick on such loudmouths? The owner of the voice grumbled. Terrifying. She's at least 20 times larger than a normal human. She has a powerful appearance too, like a human, but she's too beautiful, and if you close your eyes, her image simply vanishes from your memory, making it impossible to recall. Well, that's it. I've been kidnapped by secret government agencies or aliens. I can only hope that my parents and brothers are okay and weren't touched. Let us out! This is a kidnapping! Some idiot suddenly shouted loudly. There's no other way to describe someone yelling at a creature that could easily crush him with one finger. Not kidnapped, sweetheart. This address made me want to disappear into thin air, but unfortunately, I don't know how to do that. You're just copies of personalities. You can see for yourself. A screen appeared in front of me, showing me, now in a store buying bread. That's where they scanned me on the road, I think. Looking at myself from the outside, I was able to calm down. After all, this essentially means everything is fine, and I don't have to worry about others at all. But now I'm starting to get scared by the prospect of what they might do with the copies here. Well, I guess I need to find a way to commit suicide. After that thought, my camera lit up yellow, and she looked at me, which made me really want to disappear from this world and never be born again. Now she's laughing. Commit suicide and disappear from your place. She smiled at me. It won't work, and they won't do anything like that to you anyway. What do you need us for? The girl asked. A test of military personality modules. Each of you will receive one. After that, you will be sent to a random second-tier world. And then it's up to you. Then she looked at me again. I want to cry. For suicidal people. I can't be the only one here who thought about death, right? There were at least 3 in the previous batches, too. She sighed, answering my thought. I don't advise committing suicide. If you do, you will disappear forever. Besides, testing military modules feels more like an adventure in a fairy tale world than torture. After these words, my cage stopped glowing. The prospect of disappearing forever pleases me much less than becoming a traveler into a book or movie. A fairy tale world? Asked one of the girls, sitting in the same cage as me. Second-level worlds are embodiments of human thoughts. They haven't been studied much yet, but they're quite safe. Well, some of them are, for sure, but for dangerous worlds, we have copies of the personalities of maniacs, mass murderers, and the like. Judging by her expression, she at least wishes for all of them to burn in hell. Okay, you can ask questions, but for now, those who don't have them will be sent off to have modules implanted. That's when I started to feel uneasy, because my camera started moving. Soon, I flew into some strange box, so fast that before I knew it, I found myself in pitch darkness. Implantation of the KV-026 module. After this inscription appeared, my vision began to darken, and my body literally began to fly apart into tiny pieces, but I didn't have the strength to scream. I was too tired. Forgive me, Naruto, but I need the strength to kill my brother, an unknown voice said. Opening my eyes, I see a suspiciously familiar black-haired guy, holding a kunai, who the next moment slit my throat, and I couldn't even move, my face full of incomprehension. I watched as tears began to flow from the boy's eyes, and they somehow began to change from their usual black to red with an unknown pattern. And then things started to go dark again, and I couldn't even really feel my body anymore. Freedom! I heard a monstrous voice, after which my body literally exploded. The second awakening brought with it an incredible pain in my poor head. I felt so awful that even the thought of being dead didn't bother me. It's strange that it was just my head that hurt, and not my whole body, but for me, that was for the best. Along with the pain, memories began to come flooding back, but they weren't mine. The life of a seemingly ordinary boy, hated by literally everyone since childhood, began to flash before me. Naruto's first conscious memories were the orphanage, where he was beaten by a teacher, who, after that, disappeared without a trace, I think, or simply changed jobs, as Naruto thought. The other teachers were more reserved, not even daring to touch the boy, but apparently they weren't forbidden from setting other children on Naruto. As a result, the boy had no friends at all. Besides those boys from the older group who constantly beat Naruto, he didn't communicate with anyone. Well, except for the Hokage. Kind Grandpa Hiruzen, when he learned he was being beaten with such kindness and understanding, looked at the teachers and realized that from that day on, he was practically never beaten again. The boys in the older group were then beaten so badly that, judging by Naruto's memory, they couldn't sit down for a month. Now that's what education is, but for Naruto, being ignored seemed a far worse punishment. The loneliness he felt brought tears to my eyes. At first, Naruto tried to make friends, of course, but no one wanted to talk to him. Things were even worse with the teachers. They simply sent him away. Eventually, he became so desperate that he began praying to God for at least some kind of communication, and at that moment, he accidentally knocked over a cabinet. In theory, he fell himself, but it's much easier to blame the demon. After that incident, Naruto took a beating, but he got the attention he desperately needed. And so began a series of pranks that affected both ordinary children and adults. It was the attention he received that gave the child the strength to move on. How I hate the person who told me Naruto was the demon fox. After Naruto turned 4, he was simply kicked out of the orphanage and into a crappy apartment, even by the standards of a typical Russian student. That's where he started hanging out all over the village, and he became a red flag to the people. The poor guy was literally hunted and beaten. Fortunately, they only managed to really beat him once. The rest of the time, he was saved by ninjas with unremarkable appearances. The same crap as with that giantess, only not as effective. After all, the hair color and approximate height of those shinobi remained etched in my memory. And also, often, a man with a dirty book saved him. Even his look was enough to make most of those who dared attack the boy run away with their tails between their legs. That's when the feeling of loneliness returned. No way to cry. Phew. Anyway, he reverted to his favorite behavior and started getting beat up again, but not as hard. He started interacting with children too, and thanks to his charisma, he even managed to befriend some. But when parents noticed this, they literally started dragging their children away from the demon, for which they received a fair share of pranks from Naruto. Basically, that's how he lost friends and gained those who were ready to punch him in the face at any moment. But beating the little guy proved utterly useless. The nuclear reactor in his chest was successfully healing all physical injuries. The other kids realized this too and even began to fear him. After all, after being beaten with sticks, he calmly went to get beaten again the next day, and this time he tried to fight back, because at one point he saw a black-haired boy who had beaten up 10 people in self-defense. Thanks to Naruto's resistance and counterattacks, his opponents quickly began to run out of steam. His virtually infinite stamina and regeneration allowed him to defeat most clanless boys his age, but against older ones, he simply didn't stand a chance. Naruto's behavior only aroused even more hatred in those around him. Even someone like him simply couldn't stand it. He started getting kicked out of literally everywhere. And stores started raising prices dramatically, and the kid just wanted attention. Those around him were calmed down pretty quickly, but the hatred didn't go away, and neither did the prices. So he started starving, and there was no talk of clothes. Damn, how lucky I was compared to him. That's when the Hokage realized he had to do something about the starving child. So Hiruzen showed Naruto a place where he could get proper food, and clothes magically began appearing in the closet. By this point, by the way, the apartment was looking much better than the first time I visited, but the transformation was happening so slowly that even I didn't notice. Ichiraku Ramen. So much warmth and love in these simple words. The Hokage's agents didn't feel any anger towards Naruto at all and often helped him and fed the child for free, and seeing how the other ninja treated Tsuchi, he wanted to follow in his footsteps. And Naruto, of course, let it slip, causing Tsuchi and Ayame incredible shock. Oh, those faces. I've never seen such wide eyes. Apparently, they weren't the only ones with such faces. Literally the next day, Hiruzen showed up and began to guide the boy onto the true path. He succeeded, of course, 200%. That's when Naruto's budding maximalism transformed into a desire to become a ninja who would be treated well, to become a Hokage loved and admired by all. Thanks to motivation, Naruto started working out and going to the nearby forest to train, which he learned about by sneaking at the ninja. And thanks to this, he reached a pretty good level, even by clan standards. He saved Hinata around that moment. The anime is a blatant lie. Naruto didn't know about clones, and the boys chickened out when they saw the immortal, but the guard didn't chicken out and hit the boy so hard he practically passed out, and then those idiots beat him up. If I see those bastards again, I'll throw rotten eggs at them. That guard deserves to be castrated. It was precisely because of that asshole's actions that Naruto didn't even consider Hinata a friend. He had this ingrained in his mind. If you get close, you'll get an injury that, unlike the others, took a long time to heal. He entered the Shinobi Academy with a good baseline of strength, and at first, he managed to hold his own. But Uzumaki was a complete zero in theory, and no one wanted to train him through practice, since it wasn't part of the curriculum. He slipped in theory, but he was a pretty strong fighter, until everyone learned to more or less control chakra, and Naruto only learned about it when he started learning techniques. Because of all this, people started calling him a loser, but they didn't get into clanless brawls, knowing that they simply couldn't beat such a tank with their fists. But the clan members beat him up like crazy, and the worst was with Sasuke. Initially, he saw him as his opposite, and was infuriated by the way he acted despite having a loving family. And the desire to beat Sasuke's face gave him motivation to train, and thanks to this, he was able to stay in the top class despite his poor grades. And after the Uchiha were wiped out, Naruto seemed to see himself in a mirror and initially tried to help him in every way possible, even wanting to invite him to Ichiraku. What the blonde didn't realize was that Sasuke had suffered psychological trauma, which is why he pushed everyone away and beat up the clingy Naruto. It was a shame he developed the idea that getting beat up was much better than being ignored. That's why he fell in love with Sakura, because she paid attention to Naruto more than anyone else. It was the same with Iruka, whom he practically started to consider an older brother. Besides beating him and teaching him, he also often took him to Ichiraku after playing pranks. He shouldn't have been sent there for good behavior. No, he should have been sent there for truancy and pranks. He's a godsend of a teacher, but he's a damn good man. Thus, Sasuke also released the beast and became a little closer to Naruto, thereby engendering a spirit of competition and motivation. Thanks to which, despite his abysmal control by any standard, he overcame the substitution and hinge. Naruto thereby became an order of magnitude stronger, as his increased control allowed him to subconsciously feed himself with chakra. At that level, he could already be considered a decent genin, with chakra reserves equal to 10 Kakashis, but he was rejected due to his inability to perform a useless technique. And then he was tricked by Mizuki, whom I now hate almost as much as that Hyuga. It was then that Iruka showed Naruto how dear he was to him. Through his self-sacrifice and his words about seeing a kindred spirit in the blonde, Naruto truly accepted him as a father, who, despite all the difficulties, raised him and never betrayed him. The moment when he handed over his headband and praised him was the happiest moment in Uzumaki's life, because a father, to be proud of him, of his son. How tired Iruka am of crying. So calm. Well, Naruto stole the scroll with great force. I feel sorry for Hiruzen. He almost died from bleeding. At least he looked at his imaginary breasts before he died. Curse Orochimaru, may his arms wither away for the end of his days, and the moon shine brightly. Oh, damn! Naruto's memory is literally becoming mine. Now I see Hiruzen as my own grandfather. Damn! Again. Then Naruto met the masked man who had saved him so many times as a child, and he didn't even remember him. But even so, he quickly came to consider him a close friend. If only Kakashi hadn't been lazy, and there hadn't been the psychological trauma, and the orders from above, probably, but despite all that, he's a truly amazing teacher. Every action he took was beneficial to the team. He even managed to shake Sasuke from his vengeance-killing state to the state of an ordinary, withdrawn guy with a small circle of friends. And this continued until Itachi reversed everything, making the results several times worse. And the worst part is, he detailed the mechanism for acquiring Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan. What a monster. Then, in Naruto's life, a cheerful, perverted old man appeared. Naruto saw him as a role model, and, oddly enough, someone who could understand him. He literally began to feel a strange kinship with him. But Jiraiya turned out to be an asshole who cared nothing more than for prostitutes. He deliberately rebuffed all attempts to get closer. Damn! Even when he simply asked Jiraiya to hang out with him during training. Jiraiya replied, "Naruto, this is the path you must take for your own good," while he was fucking prostitutes. I hate that bastard. He's his godfather. Jiraiya was supposed to look after him and guide him, but that coward quickly knew what would happen if he got close to him and just ran away. If I see you, I'll punch your face. The situation with Tsunade was, well, first she literally threw mud at Naruto's dream by refusing the Hokage post, and then, she shouldn't have beaten him. After that, even such a betrayal as poisoning Jiraiya didn't have much effect, and he showed up to save her. And even Orochimaru's words about Tsunade wanting to use him and the pervert to resurrect her relatives didn't shake Naruto's resolve. Well, at least she started behaving normally, and continued to beat Naruto, thereby strengthening the bond. They could have raised him normally, and he would have lived without psychological trauma. But it was too late now. Sasuke's betrayal had shattered the poor boy's entire worldview. That's when the blonde's denial began. He didn't want to lose one of the people closest to him. Even when Naruto was told outright that he had no intention of returning, the blonde didn't lose hope of saving his friend. However, that wasn't the worst part. When Sasuke cut Naruto's neck, he literally broke it. At that moment, the blonde completely lost the will to live and completely abandoned it, transferring everything to me, merging our personalities into one. Barely rising to my feet, I realized that I was far from being in the Valley of Completion. However, judging by Naruto's memories, I was still in the Land of Fire. Only here the trees with perpendicular branches grow. I just have to figure out how to survive in this world. From the moment I managed to get up, I estimate that an hour passed, and perhaps more. By this time, the headache had finally stopped, bringing with it a sense of order that neither Naruto nor I had ever felt. Furthermore, I no longer felt like myself, as ridiculous as that may sound. I remained in that world, along with all my family and friends. But Naruto's loved ones remained in this world, facing inevitable death if I do nothing. I feel the same way about them that Naruto did. So am I now more Naruto than myself? Perhaps, but I'm not him and I'm not me. It's pretty weird to have the memories of two different people and not be them, though I'm still closer to my original self. But if he were in that situation, he'd probably just hide and wait for the eternal Tsukuyami to begin. After all, if he somehow managed to win, he'd face a far more dangerous challenge. A race of alien assholes you can't even kill, because then they'll take over your body. And frankly, he has no one in this world to protect. Unlike him, I simply can't calmly await my fate, knowing that everyone I lived for will die just like me. Although, dying in an eternal Tsukuyami isn't all that bad, I still think it's better than simply dying from having all the chakra sucked out of the world. Maybe I should leave everything as is and let Kagaya deal with her relatives herself? In theory, If I were summoned, I could hide there, away from all misfortunes, and live there peacefully. Unfortunately, I'm not that selfish, and living with a guilty conscience for the rest of my days wouldn't be very pleasant. And in theory, the aliens wouldn't need to be killed. They could simply be sealed away in a place from which they couldn't escape. Well, I've decided on a plan. First, I'll find and kill Zetsu. Then I'll find a decent Fuinjutsu teacher and work with him to develop a seal capable of sealing a god. Definitely the god of death, since he's supposed to eat souls, so I should feed him to Otsutsuki. The main thing is to get rid of the Uzumaki clan mask, so they don't cut his stomach. Well, I already like this plan. It's not a given that everything will work out, but I have some time to come up with a decent plan. After some reflection, I began examining my body, and to my surprise, it was completely intact. But for a full examination, I'd need either a mirror or, with a stupid smile on my face, because that's the only way Naruto can smile, I started casting the shadow clone technique seals. Otherwise, using just one seal would overuse me so much that I'd run out in an instant. And then my clone stood next to me, smiling similarly, practically dancing as they imitated me. It's hard to even imagine how much I dreamed of being able to do that. It took us a while to calm down, because it felt truly amazing. Okay, that's it. One of you stay with me. The rest of you go scout and find food and water. It will be done, boss. They answered in unison and, at a speed that was unnatural even by Naruto's standards, they rushed in all directions. Strange, I should have been weaker without the fox, though I think I got the point. It seems the absence of the nine-tailed fox has had a positive effect on our control, he said, taking the words right out of my mouth. By the way, you don't have a scar on your neck, although you should have one, the clone said thoughtfully, examining me. Maybe Tsunade cured us, although no. If it were her, we'd be in the Konoha hospital, not in the forest, the clone answered, echoing my first thought. I believe that after Naruto's death, we were transported here by those who brought us into this world, I said. Likewise, we're far too healthy to have survived the Biju's escape. Even more so, a strong and powerful adult Naruto died from the loss of Kurama, and we probably would have too. Further examination revealed nothing other than the realization that all my recent injuries had been healed, but the old scars from the beatings I'd received from Konoha shinobi remained. The clone dissipated, and flesh was discovered, the unlucky bear whose ear my clone had stepped on. The clone dissipated, and I felt only distant pain. Well, Potapik won't have a musical ear now, my clone said sadly. Let's remember, I answered him. Let's remember. Now we stand here with sad faces, and we don't even want to kill the bear. I found a hare, I heard my voice. Turning around, I found myself holding the carcass in my hands. Well, now it's time to start cooking. Summoning 2 more clones, I sent them out to fetch dry branches. I began digging the main hole for a smokeless fire with a kunai, while a clone began digging a fan. The hunter clone summoned more clones, and now they are, masterfully, butchering the carcass, drawing on the experience of 2 lifetimes. It seems my chakra isn't so insufficient. Even a clone created by a clone would have a greater reserve than Sakura's. However, even my increased control doesn't even come close to hers. This monster managed to make illusory clones act like shadow clones, and they all had shadows. This is a complete disaster. I could only dream of such a level now. As you might guess, the hunter clones were also preparing the meat, while the thinker clone and I were contemplating great things about Sakura, or more precisely, about healing techniques, which Naruto couldn't use due to Kurama's chakra, but I, for one, have no such obstacles. My control is just incredibly poor, but that's a solvable problem. So we found a spring with relatively clean water. The clone squad returned, with flasks from who knows where. Where? They're shadow clones under the hinge of flasks, one of them replied, causing shock among everyone in the clearing. I know I'm a genius. He smiled like the original Naruto. It seems his personality has a much greater influence on me. Come on, it's a great idea. This is crazy. A normal person would definitely never come up with something like this. Am I really that crazy? But how are we going to boil the water? Asked the clone thinker, who seemed to have digested this revelation. Who the hell knows? We haven't figured it out yet. We need more time, chakra, and knowledge. The mad scientist clone replied. Boss, can you share some chakra? Okay, but how? I can just create clones. Come on, for clones for a third of the reserve. He smiled at me defiantly, the bastard. Shadow cloning technique. Well, it was a good attempt, but an extra clone popped out from somewhere, and there was too much smoke. Oh, looks like I need to get to work on developing my control skills soon, I said, causing a mass sigh from the clones. Well, sure, they'll be working hard, but that's just not possible with body development. It's not all that bad. I, for example, will have to take up physical training, which is much less interesting than chakra training. I received many kind and understanding glances in response. Don't worry, boss, we'll help you. Damn, at least I'll eat. We still haven't solved the water problem, but to be honest, it's not that dirty. The nature here is clean, unpolluted by factories, and shinobi have a strong immunity to disease. So, that's how I drank from my clones. Yeah, after draining one of them, I dispelled it, but didn't get any memories at all, which is strange. Apparently, some kind of defense mechanism. After a snack, I sent 40 shadow clones to develop control by gluing and rotating sheets on the body using chakra. Immediately afterward, I began my warm-up, where I realized how much more powerful I was than I was, physically speaking. Every exercise I'd ever learned worked on the first try, with virtually no strain on my body. After the warm-up, I tried to push my limits and began performing the most basic exercises aimed at overall body development. However, along with the positives, there was one major negative. I'm not used to this kind of strength and body. Oh well, I'll definitely get used to it in a few years. After finishing a multi-hour workout, I don't even know how I managed to find the motivation to do so. I decided to take a little rest. Forward. In the name of the power of youth. Wait, what the hell? My guy, where did they get those logs? Having handed me the logs, the men in green suits smiled radiantly. Let's start with squats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Literally losing myself in this eerie sight, I nevertheless began to repeat after them. This continued until the moment when my legs started to give out. I had already overstrained them too much. Great. Now push-ups. Having taken a support position, lying on the logs, I suddenly realized. What the hell? You turned into them. I yelled at my clones. Oh, finally. We were starting to think you'd never figure it out. Shall we continue? They said defiantly. Come on. We know it'll take something big to get you going. We're doing this for your own good. Hey, maybe you shouldn't hit us. Necessary. Before I could finish speaking, my head seemed to explode from pain, and everything went dark before my eyes. I love myself so much, I had to come up with such a way to boost motivation. I'm even grateful to them, because thanks to them, I found a way to boost my motivation, which, unfortunately, often deserts me. However, the mass hinge of my clones under the green beast and the logs I used to swing with wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. The mad mother of his scientist clone has shown his mettle again, discovering a literal cheat for experience multiplication. If the clones are dispelled one by one, while the others are in the meditation Naruto underwent at the academy to sense chakra, the effectiveness of the training will increase exponentially. For example, if I take 2 clones and each of them develop control over a period of 2 hours, then if they were dispelled simultaneously, the training effectiveness would be 6 hours, and if they were dispelled sequentially, 8. It might not seem like much at first glance, but what if I take 3 clones? Instead of 8 hours, it's 16. Now, with 4 clones, it's 32 hours instead of 10. With 5 clones, that result doubles, meaning 64 hours instead of 12. But fatigue multiplies in the same way. At first, it wasn't so critical, as if there was a wall protecting me and all the clones from fatigue. Naruto didn't have one, so it was decided that the module was responsible for this. But the clone didn't put all his hopes in it, stopping the clones when their combined training experience exceeded 1,000 hours. But it was still a lot. It was a miracle I didn't die from taking in all this information at once. The module proved its effectiveness, but it still got the better of me. I was incredibly lucky. I could say I got off with just a little bloodshed, a bloody nose, and a raging headache that gets worse with every thought. Oh crap. I feel like if I don't get some sleep now, my head's going to explode, my vision's going dark again, and I can't even create a clone. We're Konoha's allies. Why kill him? A confused girl's voice rang out, shaking me from my unconscious state. And then my instincts screamed, and I, having charged my body with chakra, rolled from a prone position to the side. I didn't like what I saw. At least a dozen shinobi stood in front of me, one of them clamping his hand over a girl's mouth with all his might, clearly in great pain. Fucking trash. Now we'll have to fight the kid because of you, and we could have stabbed him in his sleep. The girl was thrown against a tree, and a pain cry was heard. Well, you faggots won't live. Shadow clone technique, I said, pouring nearly half my chakra into the technique, and the result was astonishing. There was less smoke, and the number of clones exceeded 100, a quarter of which immediately transformed into naked girls of various appearances. The enemy was shocked, which the clones immediately took advantage of. The girls rushed at the enemy with open arms, covering the squad of clones with Raisengans. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl was quickly removed from the battlefield using the substitution technique. The clones' combined attack was successful. 5 people died from the A-rank technique. The rest, probably Chunin, were hit by kunai fire. And that's it. The enemies are gone. Only corpses remain. But that's not what matters. I don't give a damn about them. Even the sight of their corpses doesn't evoke any emotion in me. Great. The module seems to have partially or completely killed my humanity. Fucking awesome. How fucking wonderful it is to realize that human life means nothing to me. Forgive me, please. Don't kill me. Tears streamed down her face, and the girl fell to her knees. She's in shock. I hope I don't ruin her life with my actions. For what? I should practically be bowing to you right now for saving my life. She flinched, looking at me with disbelief. Meanwhile, the clones began quickly removing the corpses. I won't touch you, honestly. I smiled Naruto style, trying to project kindness and positivity. After examining me carefully, apparently convinced of my harmlessness, she calmed down a little. Thank you. There was genuine gratitude in her words. I understand they're assholes, but not that much, and then I noticed her hands. Horrifying, those bites. Karen, that's when I realized how bad it was. I really felt sorry for her, and I also wanted to wipe the village hidden in the grass off the face of the earth. You're welcome, I replied sympathetically, in vain, because it made her notice where I was looking. After that, she abruptly hid her hands, then sighed sadly, and tears began to flow from her eyes again. Then she looked at me hopefully. Please take me with you, Shinobi-san. I can be very useful. And I still have to explain to her that I'm supposedly dead, and it's best not to be near me at all. Boss! My clone whispered, his face awash with shock. Karen glanced at the clone and decided it was best not to interrupt, but she didn't stop looking at him hopefully. Only now did I notice that my valiant clones, like hardened marauders, had practically stripped the corpses bare. Oh well. Whatever, this is the shinobi world, different rules apply. What? I asked, and they handed me a pass, intended for the Chunin exam participants. Reading it, I could see the names of all the participants and a blank space for the Konoha seal, which was created to prove the shinobi's presence at the exam. My face seemed to match the expression on my clones. So what date and year is it today? I asked Karen. June 22nd, 939, since the coming of the Sage of the Six Paths. It wasn't just me who was stunned, but all the clones nearby as well. I was dropped in 2 months earlier, judging by Naruto's memory. So, according to Naruto's memory, shinobi from other countries arrived in Konoha around June 24th or 25th. That's pretty cool news. I feel like I've been thrown back in time 2 months. Cool, but could my presence really create a temporal paradox? That's a really crappy situation. I would probably try to pretend I'm a bush on the other side of the world, because he wouldn't want to know what would happen if a temporal paradox happened. At least he knows what to expect with Tsukuyomi, but not with a temporal paradox, and if there's even the slightest chance of one occurring, I won't act, as he's an extremely cautious person. But in my case, I've already changed the canon, and I don't want Karen to suffer in any way. She's suffered enough in her life. And without her, Sasuke will most likely die, and frankly, I don't care. I'll still punch him in the face, just to be on the safe side. But Itachi and Danzo deserve a much harsher punishment. I just need to figure out how to kill them. I'm off track. I don't care about the time paradox, because I know something like that won't happen. Where would that come from? The module needs to be tested, and since it's military, it should only be tested in combat conditions, which means my creators expected me to participate in the 4 Shinobi World War. In that case, an encounter with Naruto is inevitable, which means no anomalies should occur. Thank you, I replied, but she noticed my long pause and began looking at me expectantly. Since I literally owe you my life, I have no objection to taking you with me and protecting you. Apparently oblivious to everything else. Karen hugged me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No problem. By the way, my name is? Let's call it Minma, and what's yours? Karen. Minma-san, why did you use the word? Let it be. She seemed interested. Oh well, it's better for me not to use my old name. Should I tell her about the time travel or not? It doesn't matter, I'll tell her. I don't want to lie to her too much, and I can't change my appearance or chakra composition. So they'll figure me out sooner or later. The main thing is that Danzo is dead at the time. It's simple. Instead of dying, I somehow miraculously ended up in the recent past, losing my bijou in the process. It's simple. Instead of dying, I somehow magically ended up in the recent past, losing my bijou and, with it, the chance to prove my true identity. Now, if I go back to my home village, I'll probably be killed or worse, brainwashed. Karen's mouth dropped open in shock at these words, but her eyes also flashed with obvious disbelief. This is a joke, isn't it, Minma-san? She asked hesitantly, afraid of offending. Unfortunately, no. Well, since you don't believe me, then let's pretend I deserted the village and don't even want to remember my old name. She clearly believed these words more, but my tone made her doubt I was just messing with her. A master order. Well, how can I explain to her that, essentially, if this hadn't happened, I would have had to compete with Naruto in willpower? I'm 100% behind him in that department, because no matter how much of a child he is, Naruto is a shinobi and the reincarnation of a demigod, while I'm a mere human, albeit 8 years older. So, in a way, I'm glad it worked out this way, and the blonde himself is alive and well, so I have no moral qualms about it. Minma-san, why do you take desertion so lightly? Well, how can I say, otherwise I would be dead, and I have more or less enough strength, at the level of the children of the heads of clans. So with Jinin and Chunin and perhaps even with Jonin from small hidden villages. Shock was visible in the red-haired girl's eyes. What kind of monsters do they train in Konoha? She said with some fear. Did you really believe me this time? How can you not trust a man who has more chakra than a Kage? But after these words she hesitated. So, she is a censor after all. It's most likely the Biju's influence on my chakra system. Now she seemed to be really thinking about it. Maybe I still have some of his chakra left in me. I thought. After these words, I felt someone literally start to stare at me, and Karen started to turn pale, and she was looking at my stomach. Maybe the seal is still there, and I'm just an amateur who doesn't know how to activate it. It's impossible, she said with some fear. There's a bit of terrible, evil chakra in your stomach area. It's much stronger than yours. The former seal that held the nine-tailed fox. I sighed. I died, and it escaped. Only instead of ending up in a pure world, I was thrown here. The girl was genuinely shocked, and I even saw sympathy in her eyes. But I'm happy. I stunned her. I've ended up in the recent past, and now I have a pretty good chance to save someone close to me, and I can also prevent my own death. As for the fact that my friends and acquaintances will try to kill the enemy saboteur or the cursed Orochimaru's experiment at the first opportunity, I'm not worried. The last sentence sounded uncertain, and suddenly there was a very sad feeling. Karen noticed this change, the disbelief vanishing from her eyes. Ah, well, at least they won't call me a monster and hate me all the time. I tried to calm myself down, but it didn't work. I literally don't give a damn about everyone else and how they treat me. You probably have proof that you are you. I looked at her in surprise. On your neck. Exactly. Thank you, Karen, you're wonderful. These words made her feel embarrassed. Having removed the amulet created from Hashirama's own chakra, I suddenly realized that I had a real chance for a normal relationship with Konoha. I just had to find Tsunade and explain the whole situation to her, backing up my words with the amulet and the remnants of Kurama's chakra. By this point, the clones had finished looting. They'd stolen everything from personal belongings to clothes, some of which the clones had already tried on. Yeah, and where did my disgust go? My past self, if I'd seen a human corpse, would never have even gone near it. Ugh, how it's warped my personality. Karen also noticed the clones, but her attention quickly shifted to the pile of bodies piled on top of each other. A faint smile lit up her face. Worse, I could literally feel the pleasure she was looking at them with. This is fucking awful. I won't bother her, definitely not now, let her watch, but in the future, I need to find some other source of happiness for her, and at least somehow improve her psychological state. I wish we had a psychologist like Kakashi here. However, she didn't look at the corpses for long. The fashion show also interested the red-haired girl. Well, like a comedy performance, which is also not bad. Karen, which of my clones do you think looks the least stupid in these costumes? She paused and pointed at the clone who had managed to find clothes that were more or less his size. Thank you. Well, since you won, you erase it. The clones applauded the winner and directed him toward the spring. You could see how the losers were hurt and, sadly, sighed. The girl smiled at this scene. So, this outfit consists of black sandals, which were taken from the youngest. His gray pants were also taken, and his outerwear consisted of a dark green turtleneck and a black vest. Over that, he wore the standard set of pouches, and that's it. He needs a hooded mask here to at least hide his face. I don't know how to sew, so that would only ruin the costume. In theory, I could use a piece of black fabric instead. I need a hood to hide my identity. One of my clones said. Does anyone have any ideas? Who the hell knows? Another one answered. Maybe we should use this cloak, but it's got a lot of holes in it. Watching myself from the outside is pretty weird, even though Naruto is used to it. I can sew it, Minma-san, but I need some needle and thread, Karen said suddenly, surprising everyone in the clearing. Well, me, to be precise. What? Not understanding why we reacted that way. Well, I mean, what do I know about her other than she was used as a walking first aid kit in the village? It's just that this is the first time I've seen a kunoichi who can sew. Brilliant, I replied. The clones nodded in agreement, since Karen was essentially the first kunoichi I'd ever seen. The girl herself was genuinely surprised when she heard this. Is it that bad in Konoha? Perhaps, although I haven't done much research into the matter, I answered Karen. By the way, do we even have any threads? I turned toward the clones. Well, there's some iron fishing line here for traps, but I wouldn't use it to make clothes. The other me shouted, slightly upsetting Karen, who genuinely wanted to help. Yeah, don't worry, there'll definitely be some thread in the nearest settlement. The quiet cry of a dying whale was heard, and Karen had become the same color as her hair. It looks like she's not being fed yet. I'll get to the grass village in the future and castrate everyone. I won't care anyway, and she'll probably even be pleased. I didn't stop my thoughts and didn't prepare anything for the red-haired girl because the clones. I didn't expect such a sharp start from them, and Karen didn't expect it either. She almost fell to the ground from fear. Luckily, I managed to catch her. Don't worry, I told her. They ran off to make you something to eat. She blushed even more. Yeah, I really embarrassed the girl. The clones are working like clockwork. The fire is already lit, and on it sits a camping pot of shinobi grass rations, which are much lower quality than those from the Leaf Village. Well, edible, but I wouldn't have risked giving such a thing to a girl if it weren't for the hungry look in Karen's eyes. So we waited about 3 minutes, and everything was ready. It's great to have clones, well, until they start experimenting. Thank you, said the girl, who was given something to eat, a whole pot of nutritious porridge. Ugh, it tasted like crap, but the nutritional value was pretty good despite the quality. The only good thing is that shinobi wouldn't carry around crap that could poison them. Oh well, it's too late. The food's gone. It feels like she hadn't had food for days, and the shock had made her forget she was hungry. Then they brought hares. The hunting efficiency of a huge horde of clones deserves respect. After thanking me and all my clones, she started eating. Anyway, we fed Karen a good meal. The redhead is now more or less satisfied. She especially enjoyed watching how my clones, sneakily, buried the corpses. Seriously, half of my clones facepalmed, and the other half sighed sadly. The girl doesn't care. She's simply enjoying watching the happy funeral, and she's not even particularly bothered by the clones' reactions, although she thinks it's even funnier that way, since my reactions to my own stupidity are quite colorful. Thanks to this atmosphere, she finally relaxed, so much so that she fell asleep on the ground. She really needed to find a more comfortable spot, because despite the warm climate, the ground was cold and there was a wind. Basically, if a clone could make a flask, then a tent and sleeping bag could be made too. The clones had already started developing it. Damn it, it's me, and they think the same way. The clone mad mother scientist was back, and the other clones were supporting him again. Thankfully, everything was fine so far, and there were no signs of trouble, but the results were already there. I just need to change our location, because I don't think this place is the best for a camp, and God forbid another batch of grass shinobi runs through here. I might not be so lucky the second time, and I'll be confronted by some devils with poisons, illusions, medical techniques, and chakra absorption. The latter is unlikely though, but at least I know two. Kisame and some idiot who lost to Sasuke, who couldn't use chakra. Based on the clone's memories, I identified a more or less adequate campsite. There was enough room for a tent, and clones could be deployed as guards. Having gathered all our things, Karen and I, who were carried on a clone stretcher with a clone pillow and a clone blanket, set off. The cost of transporting the redhead turned out to be simply astronomical. A durable clone requires a large amount of chakra, or more precisely, its yang component, and since I can't separate it, I had to make do with volume. After reaching the right place in about an hour, I created a well-powered shadow clone, which then transformed into a tent. Inside was a bed, on which I laid Karen. I left a squad of clones to guard her, about 40 to be sure. Well, that's where it all started. In the name of the power of youth, let's go train. My clones whispered, damn. I just ate. I tried to talk myself out of training, but I know I have to. Boss, you're a shinobi. That doesn't matter to you at all. I know how lazy you are, but we still have the world to save. I know. I sighed, gathering my moral strength. After a short conversation with the embodiment of my responsibility, I began training like a lazy slipper being kicked by clones. As categorical as it may sound, it's true. I can't afford to slack off, so I have to do it this way. As the saying goes, an eagle is a proud bird. Until you kick it, it won't fly. So, the same thing happens to me. Even my clones have to be kicked. To achieve this, I have to create specialized kicking clones that increase productivity and try not to get into trouble in the process. Basically, it's a blessing. Meanwhile, my clones started practicing control again. Unlike me, they were enjoying mastering magic. Oh well, I'd still get their memories after dispelling them. 6 clones trained simultaneously, and the ones who performed better dispelled, boosting the results of all the clones. They didn't meditate because there were too many of them already, and they were too lazy to dispel them. I didn't plan on exhausting myself, so I didn't push things to the point of absurdity, and neither did the clones. Of course, I could have done almost exactly what I did yesterday and collapsed, but I'm not an idiot. Well, almost. So with the help of the stolen map, my clones are finding a way to the nearest village where Karen and I can replenish our water supplies. Several hours passed in this merry tempo, after which the clone reported that the red-haired girl had woken up and, eyes like saucers, began examining the tent. It dawned on her that she'd been sleeping inside my shadow clone, resting her head on another one and sheltering under a third. Damn, she can clearly sense chakra. For her, it's like waking up with 3 men. Oh well, I'll just play the oblivious brick and keep calm. After cleaning my clothes with a chakra emission, almost tearing them to pieces, because I'm not Kakashi, who knows how to do that, I moved to Karen with the help of a replacement. So how did you sleep? I asked Karen, who, instead of killing me, was blushing. A good sign, meaning there was a chance of survival. What's wrong with you? I decided to play the truant. She couldn't answer, but she looked at the tent very eloquently. And? This is a tent made of my chakra. Now I'm the one receiving that look. Translated into human language, it could be translated as, I see a fully fledged chakra system in this tent, pervert. A talent that's not even embarrassing to compare to Kakashi-sensei's ability to convey emotion with just one eye. Okay, these are clones under Hinge. They don't feel anything in that state, and they don't see anything either, and I won't get any memories from this. Don't look at me like that. Please, next time I'll leave you to sleep on the ground. Those grass idiots didn't bring sleeping bags. She calmed down a little at the mention of grass idiots. Did you at least get enough sleep? I tried to change the subject. Yes, thank you, Minma-san. Do you? By the way, Karen, do you know how to move along the upper paths? Yes, but I learned it recently. She hesitated slightly. Okay, if anything happens, I can carry you. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. I need to knock down the aggro. Okay, I'll make you a clone stretcher with a throne and carry you around like a Heim. Judging by her expression, the offer seemed tempting. At that moment, I received information about a new development by the Clone Mad Mother scientist. It involves creating a clone ring that will be used to divert Karen from attack. Now how am I supposed to give it to him? Wait, why a ring? Are you serious? Using my facial expression and gestures, I asked my clone who developed the technique. Yes. He shook his head. It's easy to talk to yourself. The clones always understand the gist of your questions. Dash. Why the hell? Cool. You do understand that she might not take this exactly the way she's supposed to. I don't know how I portrayed it, but it worked. Yes, that's the point. Do you even have any idea what kind of problems this will cause? She already sees me as a rather sane person, and with a ring, I can't even imagine how she'll take it. I looked at him sadly, and using the clone, transferred part of my memories to him, since even I myself didn't understand my pantomime. Don't forget, boss, we're the same age, so the reaction might not be that harsh. He created and dispelled the clone, but not right away. He tried to. Okay, well done for coming up with such a cool technique. Thank you. What was that? The red-haired girl asked. Talking to myself, one of the clones replied. As you can tell from this pantomime, the original isn't an actor, and you could even pay him not to perform. Yeah, that clone's crazy. Besides, he's so bad at conveying his emotions that he doesn't even understand them himself. Well, you could take it as practice. What the hell? I asked him, and Karen started giggling. Life is a pain, boss, just like your acting talent. He showed and relaxed. The rest of the clones facepalmed. Oh. Okay, Karen, in general, during the trip you need to put on a construct made of my chakra, so that in an extreme case, the clone, using a replacement, would take you out of harm's way. I'm honestly not a pervert. Please don't look at me like that. Fine. What should I turn the clone into? Bracelets, preferably long ones. Okay. 2 clones were transformed into leather bracelets that could cover the bites. Karen slowly put them on herself, clearly embarrassed. I would punch me in the face for behaving like that with a minor, although he would chicken out at the shinobi. After that, we hired a clone cartographer who'd spent hours trying to decode the map, but was really just trying to figure out where we were and where to go. And surprisingly, he figured it out, with the help of Potopic, or rather, his cave, which was marked on the map. God knows why. Maybe this bear is special, though. This cave is the only more or less normal landmark in this forest. The clones determined the cardinal directions by the position of the sun. Several of them died from staring at the sun for too long. And no, I'm not an idiot. It was all the clones who decided to conduct an experiment. Sigh. Karen, can you use the upper paths? I asked, just in case, but she looked embarrassed. Okay, I'll carry you. No, I can, Minma-san. I just can't jump on trees for long. Got it, we'll take breaks. Well, now we'll have to make sure she doesn't fall. Before the journey, I waited for a clone, a lifelong winner, who not only washed my clothes, but also dried them with chakra, and did a much better job than I could. After praising him, I went to change, and I can say the clothes are quite comfortable. Boss, look! Clones ran up to me, carrying a flat wooden mask with holes for the eyes and nose. Wow, that's cool. Well done, I said, putting on the mask. After that, I showed myself to Karen, who was a little scared of the mask. Well, are you ready? Yes. We headed toward the village, accompanied by 20 clones, who were divided into 4 squads, capable of deploying replacements at any moment and removing Karen and me from harm's way. But I don't feel 100% safe. I need more defensive techniques, and it would be nice to increase my perception speed, but that's already a matter for the scientifically insane clone department because I need to level up. Oh well, I'll deal with that after I become an ally of Konoha and receive protection from Tsunade. Our journey hadn't exactly had the best start, to say the least. In a relatively short period of time, I'd managed to not only get a few close encounters with the Fire Nation's flora, but also, apparently, I'd actually taken a liking to some of the trees, since I was flying through them like that. Fortunately, the agility I'd inherited from Naruto was enough to change my trajectory mid-flight. Except, I don't even consider that a problem. My biggest mistake was that I almost blinked when Karen tripped and nearly began her acquaintance with a centuries-old tree, which I crashed into. But we did make the acquaintance. Fortunately, I managed to strengthen my forehead and neck with chakra. I have experience with withstanding the blows of fate. The girl herself was completely useless by this point. Finding herself in the strong arms of my clones, she leaned against him, breathing heavily. Karen, how are you? I approached her worriedly. I'm fine, Minma-san, and how are you? Yeah, I'm fine, of course. Ugh, how the hell did I let her get so tired? She was actually running fine. She didn't even change her expression much. She knows how to be patient. Fine. He tore off the remains of his mask and showed the redhead his healthy forehead. I think we need to set up camp. Do you want me to build a tent? I'd be grateful, Mima-san, she said and passed out. Fuck. Honestly, I was scared. They don't usually pass out that suddenly. A cursory examination made it clear. To be honest, I didn't understand a damn thing. I'll have to kick that Naruto here for skipping first aid class. Oh well, calm down, you. Her skin color is normal, her breathing is fine, no insect or snake bites were noticed on her. She's clinging to the clone just fine too. Well, thank goodness. Most likely, the red-haired girl's condition is caused by exhaustion. And it's all because of this fucking piece of wood on my face. Damn, if only we'd been attacked by shinobi while we were traveling, and I'm like an idiot in a mask that seriously obscures my vision. We were lucky, to say the least, but that doesn't make up for my mistakes. Besides the fact that I put an object on my face that interfered with my vision and breathing, I also overlooked the child. Karen was taken to a tent to sleep, and a clone was left with her. Well, since the mask is gone, and everything is more or less okay with the redhead, the question of camouflage arose before me again. As for me, either I need another mask with normal cutouts for the eyes and mouth, or just a piece of fabric that can be tied around my head. Oh fuck, how did I not realize it right away? I have a shit ton of fabric now, and more. Guys, here's the deal. I turned to my clones. Can you make me a mask replica made entirely from fabric, and we can use strips of the same fabric as thread? Well, now the revelation hasn't just fallen on me. What an idiot I am. I heard the voice of one of my clones. Well, the reaction was predictable. I sympathize. Another patted him on the shoulder. Yeah, I know how to support. The blow to the face that I received even penetrated the module's protection. And so, a flurry of activity erupted, or rather, everyone started kicking each other. Several teams formed, each focusing on their own important task. The first ones I noticed were the clone hunters, armed with shadow spears. This blow also awakened an incredible evil in the form of a resurrected clone of a mad-mothering scientist. This incredible creature founded the Scientific Madness Division, which began new experiments to develop my techniques and methods for their use. In addition, several groups appeared that were busy sewing masks, collecting brushwood, reconnaissance, and defending the camp. Honestly, I was a little surprised by their number. There were about 10 clones at first, and now that number has increased at least fivefold. Unfortunately, the increase in clones means their chakra has diminished. And as the source of that chakra, I had to create several more clones. The new batch, unlike the others, will use chakra sparingly and will serve as a last line of defense. Unfortunately, although I have a ton of chakras, I don't have an infinite number, so now I feel better. Well, it's time for some exercise, said a pair of clones in tight green suits. Sigh. I just ran for 3 hours straight. Maybe we shouldn't? I asked them hopefully. We need Minma, we need her. As a result, I was kicked out to training after all. But without the element of surprise, Konoha's green beast clones proved ineffective. To force me to act, I'd need to act differently. Simply kicking me would keep my efficiency hovering around 10 to 20%. And my lack of knowledge of the most basic rules of shinobi training could backfire on me. Well, since the trick with the power of youth no longer works, they changed tactics, or rather, dispelled the hinge and simply started training with me, using the same methods they used at the academy. I must admit, at first I actually liked it. However, judging by the fact that I was barely exerting myself, this training method was ineffective. To make matters worse, the Mad Science Department had a discovery at that very moment. So, I had weights all over my body, and the weights weren't heavy, so in theory, there shouldn't be any problems. That's what I thought for who knows how many hours. Just when I thought it was time to call it a day, a second discovery occurred. Now, instead of the usual clone trainers, there were Gakamuchi clone trainers with greater muscle mass and enhanced physical capabilities. Well, in short, they wanted to challenge my title of boss of this gym. The struggle, the strength and endurance competitions didn't last long. The Gachi clones weren't durable, but I mercilessly lost the strength competitions. The only thing saving me from total defeat was my stamina, which, as it turns out, I still have a ton of. I'm so used to thinking of myself as a normal person, so I'm running out of steam. I should have remembered, Naruto is a monster, and I haven't even used half my chakra reserves. Boss, one of the clones said, turning really pale. We're fucked. Redhead has awakened, whispered one of the blonde men guarding the abnormally large tent in the middle of the forest. A similar blonde man, hearing this, quietly walked away from the tent and headed toward the fire. Cook, Karen is awake. Got it? I'll start heating up the hairs now, replied a similar blonde man in a white cap, standing by the makeshift grill. And it's a shame there's nothing to marinate the meat in, he muttered to himself. As if you could? As far as I know, neither I nor Naruto simply didn't know how to do it. Skepticism was heard in the tired and battered clone's voice. No, but since there are so many of us and everyone has a lot of free time, it would be a sin not to try. Although, sorry, Hunter, I didn't think about it. The life of a clone with little chakra left is hard. The beaten blonde sighed sadly. By the way, don't you feel sorry for the original? What are you talking about? The cook asked him, slightly surprised. It's like at this moment, he's pumping up like crazy and getting beat up by these musclemen. The blonde muttered, transferring the cooked meat to a plate. It's a shame, really, but it's his choice. If he didn't want to get stronger, he would have simply given up, as best he can, and the scientifically insane department didn't try that hard anyway. You're right, the clone answered him sadly. Chakra at the bottom? Yeah, well, I'll try to save my chakra and sleep. Good luck. The next moment, a girl the same age as the blondes approached the fire and grill. She looked tired, until she noticed the plate. The blonde in the white cap couldn't help but notice that look. Good morning, sleeping beauty. Take as much as you want. I prepared it for you. Thank you, Clone-san, the girl replied, blushing slightly. No problem. The cook smiled at her. The plate, once in the redhead's hands, began to empty rapidly, causing the cook to whistle softly. Thus, a portion intended for at least 3 ordinary people disappeared in the blink of an eye. Oh, fuck it, the hunter muttered in a language the girl didn't understand. Looks like we'll have to send a new squad. Yeah, the cook agreed. Okay, I'll go kick some slackers. They didn't even let me sleep. The saddened hunter headed towards the forest. This conversation left a lasting impression on the red-haired girl. She'd never heard anything like it before. She even stopped eating, which the cook noticed. Is something wrong? The blonde asked, sitting down on the log next to the red-haired girl. What was that just now? The girl asked, pointing in the direction of the departed hunter. The cook himself realized that the conversation with this sad and battered clone had been far from common. Just like that, the cook's head was as empty as ever. A language for private conversation. A new figure in a white coat and glasses appeared from the bushes. By the way, have you seen a microclone around here? No, the cook answered him. Well, sooner or later it'll dissipate anyway, although we can try. He smiled slyly, made hand seals, and vanished. Only a white dot on the ground testified to this clone's existence. Now I understand why the original thinks they're a little crazy, the cook said, watching the white dot speed out of their sight. I hope it doesn't hit a tree. I don't want to feel that impact again. He sighed, watching the redhead's astonishment at what she saw. The clones are scientists, constantly developing new techniques, and more. These monsters even managed to develop a new language. The girl was utterly shocked by this vehement remark. A moment later, her expression was already filled with a desire to ask another question. Meanwhile, the hunter looked disapprovingly at his copy. Clone-san, why are you all so different? What do you mean? The blonde's face reflected confusion. I mean your character. Even your chakra is a little different. For example? said the hunter. How am I different from him? He pointed at the blond man in the white cap. You have noticeably less chakra. After this remark, the blond man with the spear sighed sadly. It's calmer, more inconspicuous, but at the same time, it's much sharper. It's hard to describe. The hunter pondered this description. Calm, discreet, and more daring. Essentially, that's what a hunter should be. I think I get it. Each of us was created for a purpose, and our predominant qualities depend on that purpose. It seems the original has a reason for dividing us into types. Types? I'm a hunter, he pointed at the blond man in the cap. Is a cook. There were guards near your tent. The original is being chased by the trainers now. The list goes on and on. The blond man sighed. Basically, we divide ourselves by activity, and that's how we address each other. It's more complicated with clones of the same type. They also have numbers. For example, clone trainer first, clone scout third, and so on. Don't get so worked up about it. You can, like the original, limit yourself to just type. I see. Thank you, Hunter-san. Listen, Hunter, would you like to join our science department? We need people like you. A high, squeaky voice suddenly rang out, causing the redhead to break into a fit of laughter, and she herself began trying to hold back her laughter. Scientist, I don't have much time left as it is. Let me rest. The hunter grumbled, lying down in his previous place. Such people are leaving. Karen, maybe you should come with us. I promise it will be very interesting there. With us? The cook asked. At that moment, two figures appeared before his face, one in a robe, the other practically invisible due to a layer of dirt and an unknown yellowish slime. What happened to you? The blond man with the spear asked. When I shrunk down, I misjudged it and crashed into a bee's nest, and they almost killed me. Those creatures are much scarier than those suckers in the grass. Karen's last remark made her sad. She'd always known that the shinobi from her home village weren't the strongest, but they were an insurmountable barrier for her. Now she sees that those she'd hated and feared her whole life have fallen to a level lower than ordinary bees. Karen could have taken it as a joke, of course, but the clone's voice and chakra suggested otherwise. The girl's reaction didn't go unnoticed. Well, you're certainly something. You could have grown up instead of wasting your time with this nonsense, the cook said, observing the girl's reaction. It's a good thing you didn't crash into Karen while she was sleeping, the hunter continued. They'd mistake me for a mosquito and send me away so badly that I'd be embarrassed to even let myself go. The microclone imagined this scene. Karen, if you join the science department, we'll give you some training. Her eyes lit up at the scientist's tempting offer. I agree, the red-haired girl replied immediately. Great, let's go. He smiled at her and began to lead the girl towards the forest. Karen, if anything happens, the hunter and I will stay here. I still have to cook the hares for the original. Otherwise, if he goes hungry, everyone will get it, the hunter said menacingly. Except you, don't worry. Hunter, are you fucking serious? What's the point of him beating himself? Attention! A bruised blond man burst into the clearing, immediately recognizing him as the original. Pack your things. Karen's riding on the back of one of the clones, and that's not up for discussion. Fear was evident on the blond man's face, which deeply affected Karen. What's happened? Orochimaru was watching us. If we don't get out now, at best they'll kill us, and at worst they'll use us for experiments. We're fucked. The only thing that's comforting is my silent intuition. I just have a feeling it only activates during an attack. And it's all that fucking white snake. Who the fuck uses white snakes for reconnaissance? Karen, do you know this snake is a summoning beast? A sullen clone with a spear asked the frightened redhead. Respect to that clone. I don't know how to define it. Panic was visible on her face. Does it have a chakra? Yes. This revelation scared me, to be honest. There is very little of it. Minmasen, all animals have chakra. The clone in the white coat rubbed his chin. Can you summon the boss tadpole? No idea, but it's worth a try. I bit my finger with my tooth and pressed my hand to the ground. Summoning technique! I screamed, and my legs buckled from the sudden loss of chakra. Holy shit, there was a tadpole in front of me. Damn, I guess I shouldn't have summoned a creature from the other universe. I could lose my life like that, and if Karen tells me now that this snake is a prize. A snake isn't a summon, Minmasan, Karen said confidently, and I relaxed. The tadpole you summoned has many times more chakra, and it also has the beginnings of a character. Thank you, Karen. You have no idea how much you've helped, I said, relaxing, almost falling to the ground. The clones caught me. Got food? I haven't eaten all day. Karen looked embarrassed, and the clones sighed sadly, so in sync that it seemed like they'd been rehearsing for years. I sighed too, noticing the plate with a huge number of bones. Clones don't eat, and the redhead. I don't even want to imagine how she managed to fit so much in. At least she ate. I'm going to the tent. Bring food and water there. If I'm going to sleep, be careful when you kick me. And so that day ended, yeah, right. First, the clone chef kicked me, and thanks to him, I was able to eat properly and regain my strength. My joy didn't last long. Memories of the clone hunter came flooding back, bringing tears to my eyes. Before he dispelled, he felt true hopelessness in the face of death. Depression gave way to anger at the microclone's memories, and I set out to take revenge on the bees. Their nest had fallen victim to a giant raisin-gan, and the rest had been finished off by my tiny spears. Unfortunately, my glorious victory did not end there. The Mad Science Division teamed up with Karen. At first glance, their joint project didn't seem alarming, and I produced a batch of clones. Developing a method for masking chakra seemed completely safe and, most importantly, silent, so I tried to sleep, in vain. I nearly kicked the bucket from the deafening sound of the explosion. Arriving at the scene, I found damaged trees and a smiling Karen, who asked me to send a clone explosion to her village, but I don't know where she is, and the girl herself refused to go, so it's not meant to be. Some other time. And only after that was I able to go to sleep properly, while simultaneously fearing what my clones and Karen might do. I hope it doesn't blow up again. The last place I expected to wake up was in my own home. Two crucial things contributed to this. First, it's not actually my home, but the original's. Second, it's in another world. Well, my first thought upon waking, like any normal person's, was, what the hell is going on here? Could this whole time travel thing really have been just a dream? I even believed it at first, except instead of a 20-year-old student, a 13-year-old shinobi was lying in bed. I pinched my arm to make sure it wasn't a dream. You can stop. Dragging you into the inner world was a real hassle. In surprise, I jumped onto the ceiling. Don't hit the light bulb. Turning my head, I nearly fell off the ceiling. It was I, a young man of compact build. His thick, light brown hair resembled a cap, his nose was long and straight, and his red eyes with black irises radiated sadness. His whole being exuded a terrible laziness. It seemed he was too lazy even to stand. So that's how I looked from the outside, well, except for the eyes. Who are you? I asked loudly my copy, or who knows who. I am your dark side, and also the guardian of the QB chakra. He introduced himself, turning on the TV. So, this is my inner world? Yeah. He nodded. So, fucking close. The screen turned on, and on it was a map with our tent in the middle. There were also a lot of dots on it. A blue one with the inscription, me, a bunch of purple ones, clone, and a green one, ally. So, he scratched his head. We need to fiddle with the scale. Remote, come! The keeper shouted, and the sought-after item materialized in his hand. The view began to move away, but there were no gaps. It looked like the marker clones had done a good job. It all ended when red dots appeared at the edges. Enemy. There were a lot of them. There, as you can see, a shitload of them. Plus, they easily bypass our scouts. Therefore, it's not just you who are getting eyes on your asses, but your clones too. The dark side, it seems that's where I get such a love of self-flagellation. And how did you find them? Emotionally, the QB's chakra allows for even more. Want to see for yourself what the fuck it's like? How? Just wish for it. He sighed. It's your subconscious. Connect empathy? Yes/no. Having agreed with the sign that appeared in front of me, I felt horror. My ass howled, signaling danger. So, do you understand now why I contacted you? Our anal virginity is in danger. Yes, I get it. I grimaced at the emotions of that faggot. By the way, what should I call you? Think of it yourself. I'm too lazy. Ku? Like a stub from Kurama? How original. He clapped for me. Well, as best I can. No, I'm not being sarcastic. It's just my face. He raised his hands in an apologetic gesture. Well, at least it's not KYS, he added in a whisper, but so that I could hear. And what's my fault? If a cat responds to KYS, then he's KYS anyway. Screw that name. It'll be Yujiro. To me, your appearance doesn't match your name. To put it mildly, you don't look like a death machine. I don't really have a body, so changing my appearance isn't a problem. The I form was the most neutral, but even so, you managed to shit yourself and jump on the ceiling. Now imagine what would have happened if Yujiro Hama had met you instead. He's already driving me crazy. Okay, sorry, don't be so upset. Can you let me communicate with the clones and you? Because of this module, I can't get any air. What do you mean, clones? Is that even possible? Aren't you surprised that the map fills up in real time? Or how Kurama transferred chakra to a clone during the Fourth World War? That's right. I'll have to try that with my own chakra. I just need to figure out how to get the chakra into my inner world. Clones are closely connected to you, specifically to your soul. That's why I strongly advise against summoning a Shinigami through a shadow copy. Got it. I turned slightly pale, imagining my fucked up clones experimenting with summoning Shinigami. Thank God I don't know how to do that. Grant Yujiro the right to contact you and the clones? Yes/no. I guess that's the module's influence, but oh well, it's even safer this way. Yeah. Thanks. I think it's time for you to go. That faggot is getting closer with every second. He said worriedly, looking at the map. Exit yes/no. Jumping up in a cold sweat in the tent, I folded my hands in the sign of the cross. Mass shadow cloning. The tent suddenly felt cramped, filled with copies of myself. However, they soon all shrank considerably, making room for new ones. I repeated this several times, and the resulting army was impressive in its dwarfism. Yujiro, please tell the farthest clone scout to prepare for replacement. Okay. A few seconds later, a voice sounded in my head. I felt a wave of hatred and, lust directed at me, my ass howled with increased force. Fuck it. My nutcase's frightened voice rang out. Give me the chance to create a clone. I have a plan. Without thinking twice, I gave him the chance. A wave of warmth ran through my body, and my hands formed a cross. Time to punish the fucking slave. The figure that emerged from the fire, towering over me, said menacingly. Damn it. There he is, a true Gachimuchi clone. Even a fleeting glance is enough to make my ass clench. He was practically naked, save for his leather underwear with spikes. I think I'll never unsee this for the rest of my life. Yujiro, what the hell? I mentally howled. Because it's not worth it, he answered shortly. What if he really fucks him? Don't worry, his memories won't reach you anyway. Okay then. I quickly headed to the red-haired woman's tent. Karen, my clones have spotted Shinobi moving toward our camp. I said to a bewildered Karen, who had just been woken up by the clones. She looked painfully sleepy. What should I do? She woke up suddenly and instantly became incredibly serious. Take my hand and get ready to change. After that, we'll run away from this place. She nodded at me and took my hand, but then suddenly froze. Minma-san. She began to look fearfully toward my tent, where the Gachi clone was. Fear literally blazed from her. I'll cut off my empathy. A familiar window appeared before my face. There's a clone there made of fox chakra. I don't recommend going there. He's as angry as hell. I don't recommend going there. Crap? Little Bijou. Hearing this, the girl turned pale. Enough bullshit. Fucking slaves are close. The man in question shouted from the tent. Karen was seriously scared. The Gachi clone's voice was powerful. And the language, which I never knew. Got it. Tear them apart. Whatever, no time to worry about it. With pleasure, boss. After the two people disappeared from the camp, the remaining occupants began running into their tents, shrinking in size. A moment later, there was no sign that everyone had left. Copies were sleeping in the tents where the originals had been, while beneath the beds lay a veritable army, numbering several hundred. All was quiet. The clones in the tent were motionless and still, with the exception of two. The lull continued, and before the explosion, one of the tents disappeared of unknown cause. However, those lying in ambush clearly sensed the source of the danger. Lying on the bed, a 12-year-old girl tried to scream, but something muffled her. But that was exactly what she wanted. The air around her began to shimmer. Slaves are a disgrace to real men, she said menacingly in a masculine voice. In an instant, the fragile-looking girl transformed into a muscular man. What the? It sounded before the giant struck the invisible man with a blow of his hand. A multitude of glowing bullets erupted from the second tent, causing it to dissipate into smoke. They tore through everything in their path: foliage, trees, earth, and rocks. Their movement appeared completely chaotic, but that was not the case. Ripping through the trees, one of the bullets encountered not only wood but also bone. A bloody hole hung in the air. Damn it, it's a trap. A figure appeared next to the hole, screaming at the top of its lungs. A multitude of glowing projectiles pierced the screamer, tearing him to pieces. At the same time, the space began to shimmer, revealing the killers. Some of them were horrified, witnessing the horrific death of their comrade. Most began to retreat, but the shells began to pursue them. Futon, gust of wind. The shinobi cried out, throwing the projectiles away. Many of them exploded into white smoke. This technique can be A huge hand grabbed the speaker's throat. You talk too much, slave, said the giant, instantly moving in the direction of the scream. Soon, a loud crunch was heard. The neck of the shinobi he was holding was broken. Numerous kunai and shuriken flew toward the giant, but they were unable to pierce his skin. Soon, the battlefield was filled with explosions. Art is an explosion. A squeak echoed across the battlefield. So, everyone died except one. It's time for fisting ass. The giant began to move towards the last survivor, his hand glowing red. A terrifying scream was heard throughout the forest. It felt like someone was being cut alive. A lower voice echoed it. He was clearly enjoying himself. I felt very scared. No, well, what did you expect? I'm like the epitome of all your negative traits. And the clones correspond. If anything, there's not even a hint of sex there. Don't worry about your orientation. Well, at least something. Only 2D, only hardcore. What a faggot. And if there are survivors, they'll think I'm a maniac for the rest of my life. The worst part is, even if no one finds out, I'll handle it just fine myself. My self-flagellation skills are at a high level. I've been honing them my whole life. Listen up, you fucking joker. If you do something like that again, I'll cut off your connection and make you drink 24/7. Can you even imagine how embarrassed I am in front of Karen now? Hell, I'm embarrassed in front of myself. Hello? Yujiro? Where are you? And fuck, he cut off the connection. I just have to learn to live with this memory. There have been many cringe-inducing and unpleasant moments in IS life, so he has a wealth of experience, although he has never been involved in such a fucked-up situation. Hello! Just imagine the things you took from the grass shinobi had a Fuin liaison. That's how they identified you. And by the way, if you get me hooked on the bottle, I'll start duplicating the sensations for you. We'll see who can hold out the longest. I can forbid you to do this. Oh, you're such a boring person. That would be a competition. He sighed sadly. I hope it's just a joke. Otherwise, I'm scared that we're the same person. I see. Karen's things also have a beacon. It's made with her chakra. Don't ask how. Are you interrogating me there? Not me, but a Gachi clone. It turns out he has a real talent for this kind of thing. He never even considered doing it at first. Besides, I noticed his screams have a specific effect on the psyche, causing a seasoned shinobi rapist to cry like a little girl. The rapist, he should have figured it out. Even the sense of shame receded. He deserved it. Who knows how many boys suffered because of his actions? Just in case, check everything with Karen, and you should throw away the seals. It turns out they have a Fuin master in the village. Wait, why didn't they send Karen to him then? Uzumaki, I think, has a gift for seals? I'll ask right now. A terrifying scream was heard. That old faggot just can't stand redheads. Because of them, his father or mother was killed. No one knows which. Although it feels like he was raised by two men, not for your delicate psyche. Yeah, thanks. Minma-san, what's going on? Karen asked me. Who are you talking to? You loser. How could you not notice that you were yelling at me in front of her this whole time? Yujiro started laughing. Well, at least you thought to switch to Russian. Good job. The clone conducting the interrogation, he can easily contact me because I imbued him with the Nine-Tails chakra. He's currently using all his strength. Another terrifying scream was heard. Damn, there are kilometers between us. Why can I hear him so clearly? He's conducting the interrogation. You can check your clothes for tracking Fuin. Okay. She nodded and stood behind a nearby tree. And why is that clone screaming too? A Konoha interrogation method. One of the elders really likes to use it. I thought I heard claps. You got away with it. Another scream, and then an explosion. It was so fierce that a gust of wind reached us. I dread to imagine what happened to our camp. Oh, that's the end of the interrogation. Okay, I helped out as best I could. By the way, the explosion there hit all the supplies, so don't worry about the trackers. I'm off to bed, Yujiro said, cutting off the conversation. During the next hour of a thorough check of our gear, we couldn't get through to him. It seems laziness has gotten the better of him. Now he won't wake up unless you give him a kick. But I managed to access the map using a request. It made traveling easier. The only problem was that I had to run around with a bunch of clones to fill it up, because I was too lazy to do it myself, and it took a long time. Karen managed to find the tracking Fuin, but she refuses to say where it was. Her gaze was so stern that I don't think I even felt such danger from the Gachi clone. Luckily, I wasn't wearing any such crap. After checking, I and the red-haired girl, angry as a little Biju, moved in the direction where, judging by the map, the forest should end. As Minato said, there is nothing more frightening in life, nothing more frightening than an evil Kushina with a frying pan in her hand. As it turns out, these words also apply to Karen. I, with all my life experience, Naruto shouldn't react to any form of yaki at all. But my resistance seemed to evaporate. I'd never been so scared. It felt like I was standing next to a nuclear bomb, growing more powerful with every second. Even my laziness incarnation, Yujiro, sensing the end was approaching, woke up and made contact. After calling me a henpecked husband, this idiot finally offered to help. Together, we organized a squad of accelerated microclones. Their efficiency was unmatched. They had discovered something no one had ever imagined. an entire settlement dedicated to the power of youth. All the residents, following the teachings of my Dai, wore green, skin-tight suits and trained with inhuman dedication and persistence. The number of thick-browed warriors per square meter exceeded all permissible limits. There were even kunoichi. Yujiro and I, seeing this scene, were simultaneously stunned. The scene was so absurd that we assumed someone had trapped all the clones in an illusion. They couldn't break free of the Jinjutsu themselves. Kai, like other techniques, didn't work. My dark side decided to try a more effective method. A blast of demonic chakra hit me and my clones. The result was negative, literally worse. Our vision improved, making the scene even clearer. However, the surge of Kurama's chakra also had a positive effect. Karen calmed down. "Did something happen, Mima-san?" she asked, her voice trembling. All the pent-up anger seemed to have evaporated, but Yujiro was hinting otherwise. "My clones found a place where, in theory, you can buy clothes. But it was so unrealistic that I decided to throw off the Jinjutsu. It didn't work. Do you need to buy clothes that urgently? There's an unknown shinobi settlement there. Oh, you shouldn't have." The bomb started ticking again. "Do you have the transformation technique?" "No." "Bad," I sighed. "Well then, repeat after me, while simultaneously imagining that you have, for example, a different hair color." "Fine." Slowly, I began performing seal after seal, my hands a little out of practice, as Naruto usually limited himself to one seal. Finally, a cloud of chakra emanating from Karen enveloped us both. "Holy shit!" It came from my subconscious. Her skin turned red, her hair green, and she puffed up, almost like Konohamaru during his first technique. A wild laugh was heard. Now I can officially call Karen a tomato. After examining herself, the girl squealed, and the technology disappeared. "Not bad for a first time," I remarked philosophically, trying not to resemble my dark self. "Be patient, man. I'll laugh enough for both of us." Surprisingly, it worked. The laughter was so loud and expressive that I had to forget about Karen's appearance and mentally kick Yujiro. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. For example, the first time I only got a cloud of smoke." "I have an idea," I said, and turned into Karen with green hair. "Try to copy it." In the end, she did succeed and got a hinge. The only minor changes were that her breasts grew slightly, and the bite marks disappeared, although, no, the latter was actually for the better. "Perfect, well done." The girl smiled radiantly, looking at her clear hands. "I won't bother her for now." Quickly transforming into my green-haired, red-eyed self, I sent a command to the clones to prepare the replacement technique. If my two clones were equal in mass and size to Karen and me, the cost would be minimal. However, if the masses weren't the same, an unknown factor would appear in the movement calculations, which would be as difficult to calculate as calculating the force required to lift me off the couch. Using this technique, I changed my hair color to green and my eyes to red. Don't forget about the stripes. They are, after all, your most expressive feature. "Thank you." "No problem. They'll find out and kill you there anyway." His voice became more thoughtful on the last word. Along with the stripes, I refined my facial features, making it thinner and my nose sharper. These small touches are enough to completely transform my appearance. I could certainly become more mature and muscular, but that kind of hinge is easier to remove, and the cost increases. I have a ton of chakras, of course, but it's worth saving just in case. As a result of the transformation, we looked like brother and sister. I also created a clone of Sensei, whose face was covered with a mask similar to Kakashi's. We wore forehead protectors with the inscription, "Oil," on them. Mount Mayaboku is neutral territory, which is why Jiraiya could roam freely without being attacked. I can summon a tadpole. In theory, that should be enough, except that it would drain all my chakra. "Yujiro, can you help me summon the toads?" I said mentally. "I can. Transfer control to the Sub-Kakashi." I heard in response. Just please don't overdo it. The thick-browed ones, unlike the grass shinobi, seem quite peaceful. I understand. Maybe you should join them? The only thing that would make you different from them would be your appearance. It would be nice, but unfortunately they are unlikely to accept me. It seems there's even more Naruto in him than I thought. We need to find a way to bring this degenerate back to his senses. Maybe one of the patches reactivated, Yujiro muttered quietly. I didn't even catch the last sentence. Karen, if you stop the chakra flow, the technique will dissipate. I also advise against hitting yourself too hard, as that will simply knock the hinge off. Got it, Mima-san. How long do you think you can keep the camouflage on? The question made her think hard, but I decided to test the strength of the hinge. Gently touching the tomato's shoulder with my hand, I managed to dispel the technique. Karen, noticing this, looked sad. Along with this, memories of the clones who had observed their sparring came to me. I became afraid, even children my age, much faster than me. Even accelerated chakra perception doesn't help me see the movements of adults. Karen, are you sure you want to go there? No matter how powerful and strong I may seem to you, I stand little chance against an entire shinobi settlement. Besides, there are shinobi there who are probably stronger than me. No, she said sadly. What do you need to bring? A moment of embarrassment gave way to anger, and then to embarrassment again. His face turned red again. And in the ass. Got it! I'll bring a full set of clothes. I sighed and created 2 clones. Well, you know what to do. They turned into 2 green-haired teenagers. It seems your self-preservation instinct still works, albeit intermittently. Yujiro noted clearly. Karen, let's go, I said briefly to the surprised girl. Did something happen? That's not my level. The best solution would be to send clones there. If they're attacked, we'd better be as far away as possible. The best solution is to find another place to get clothes. Don't you think there's nothing there except green suits? Perhaps, but you understand that I can't leave the girl literally without panties. I switched to mental communication. At the same time, Karen and I began to drift away from the settlement. I understand you've given up on rational thinking. You understand that your actions put you and your precious Karen in danger. Use your brain. I understand, but what will I tell Karen? Remember, he didn't give a damn about the opinions of others. That's true. Just remember how socialized he was. Relationships with girls are out of the question. It makes sense. If he doesn't have a girlfriend and never has, then there's nothing to talk about. I wouldn't recommend that type of girl for you. If she realizes you're a potential heel, your life will be ruined. Right now, she looks like a sweet, harmless nuclear bomb, but if you could see the full picture of her emotions, well, fuck, she's a child. What kind of relationship can I have with her? You're even younger. And don't tell me you're over 20, psychologically speaking. No way. As a resident of your subconscious, I can tell you much more about you than anyone else. If that's the way things are, then fine, I'll help. However, I don't intend to die because of your stupidity. So, in exchange for my help, you'll give me the ability to freely create and control a shadow clone. Fine. Great, what to do? Yujiro, can you repeat the clone's Gachi explosion? You want to kill them? I didn't expect such bloodthirstiness from you. He was genuinely surprised. Distract them. We need a false trail for the thick-browed ones to follow. I'm amazed at your genius. I can just picture you as president, using a nuclear bomb to distract attention, he said, his tone like. You're a complete idiot. And you thought even someone who, by definition, can't sense chakra, could track such a massive chakra source? Your clones alone contain so much energy, the average Chunin would die of envy. But my reconnaissance clones haven't been noticed yet. Yes, it's because I covered them with a layer of natural chakra. Then it just dawned on me. What? Nothing to say. Listen, why don't we send clones and ant guys? They'll steal everything they need, and you'll cover for them. What? Nothing to say. How do you manage to be so stupid and so clever at the same time? Well, I'll take that as praise. Talent. So is the plan a good one? Excellent, he grumbled. Just before that, I want to ask you how. Tailed beast chakra and natural chakra are the same thing. The former, unlike the latter, has a wild density and in chakra. It's easy for me to lower the density and remove the emotional overtones. It sounds powerful. It was Isabu who came up with this. This big turtle is a master of disguise. Oh, how could it be? The tailed ones have been scattered all over the world from the very beginning. Biju are part of the same being, so they were very close spiritually. Through the subconscious of one of them, one can reach each other, but they rarely use this. Kurama alone, to keep from going crazy from loneliness, began calling Isabu once a year. So why do you have access to Kurama's memories and I don't? We're essentially the same person. I'm the only one with Fox Chakra, but I can give you memories to look at. But even Uzumaki don't live that long. I see, but will you be able to connect with the local tailed ones? In theory, but do you need your inner world to be fucked up? No. In theory, I can contact the Naruto here because essentially we have the same soul. I don't know, but it's worth a try. However, it will require your direct participation for at least 3 days. No, what did you expect from Biju Skype? You also have to consider that they might not respond. I see. I wanted to continue questioning Yujiro, but the nuclear bomb's clock started ticking again. She was clearly uncomfortable running. Maybe we should test the ant clone's effectiveness? I'm all for it. Summoning a couple of clones, I ordered them to become ants. Karen, how noticeable are they? I asked the red-haired girl, distracting her from her growing anger. Each of them is about like a chunin. Her face turned pale. Tokibatsu. Jounin. Her voice trembled more and more with every word, and I couldn't even sense the tailed beast's chakra. Shame. In an instant, her fear turned to shock. They're gone. I don't feel anything at all. What is this? It's the tailed beast's camouflage method. So, in theory, the nine-tailed beast could approach you without you even noticing. Shock gave way to awe. Well, I can't interpret that emotion any other way. Yujiro burst out laughing. Get out of here. I'll send you some ants with gifts later, my inner voice said, still laughing. Thank you. Karen, do you need anything other than a few sets of clothes? No, Minma-san. I have a question. Yes. How will such small ants steal? This question made my brain rack its brain. If I drag them away, they'll be noticed, but if I replace them, they'll burn out my chakra. Yujiro, can you hide the substitution technique? Yes. After a brief explanation of Karen's plan, we slowly continued on our way. We walked like this for 2 hours, with no sign of the panty theft mission ending. Yujiro cut off contact with me, but after another 10 minutes, I was literally struck by the fear he'd experienced. I don't know what happened, but it was at least more terrifying than the Gachi clone's torture. Karen noticed my reaction. She's a smart girl, so she guessed we might be pursued, or worse, and asked her to carry us. I scooped Karen up onto my back and tied her to me with a clone belt, and took off at a speed unnatural for me. Yujiro's emotions gradually subsided. For the next 4 hours, I just ran, my stamina never depleted, my legs ablaze with the fox's demonic chakra. I don't know how, but I managed to summon it myself. By evening the situation had worsened. The emotions of my dark side were replaced by an inhuman rage, characteristic only of tailed ones. Here I tried to break through to the subconscious. I managed to get a response only at night. A pregnant Kushina Uzumaki is in the village. The nine-tailed demon fox has discovered me. Don't enter the inner world. Kushina Uzumaki. Mom, I can have a family. But the child's joy gave way to the realization that this was a parallel world. I couldn't save my grandfather. the man who raised me from death. The slight sadness turned to terror. I couldn't save Kakashi, Sakura, Irika. The whole world would disappear just because I died. For the second time, I couldn't do anything. Shinigami, I said silently, becoming paler and paler with each passing second. And now death has come for me. Commentary on Part 6. Support the author. https://u-money.ru/to/4100117188281777. Please leave comments. They really give me motivation to write further. Part 7 Shinigami. That's what this world associates with death. That's exactly what I felt the moment he appeared before me. My whole body went numb with the feeling of death, hopelessness, and primal terror. For the first time in this body, I felt so helpless and pathetic. I was torn apart by the terrible pain, but I didn't even have the strength to scream. Both my lives began to flash before me, and then I realized I was still as much a child as I had been before gaining my memories. A new name meant nothing. I was still Naruto, although thinking had become noticeably easier. Incredible pain overwhelmed my fear. All my thoughts shifted toward saving my life. The Shinigami slowed slightly. So I can stop him. Time practically stood still at that moment, and a sign appeared next to my eyes. Tactical mode activated. Module, how I love you. All my senses heightened dramatically. I realized that the pain tearing through me was very similar in nature to the tail beast's mode. However, this bastard's chakra was slightly different. It's more vicious and savage, but at the same time weaker. Even half of Kurama was many times stronger than that. Therefore, my only problem is overloading my chakra. It can be spent or divided. Clones! Even one should help, as long as the chakra channels aren't severed. Gathering all my strength into a fist, I began to clasp my hands. The slowing of time disappeared. My head began to pound. Death's face strangely softened. I would even say surprise appeared on it. The prospect of defeating Shinigami gave me unprecedented strength. Overcoming my fear, I folded my hands in the sign of the cross. Shadow clone! A scream escaped me. The internal pressure noticeably weakened, but at the same time, I felt a new wave of pain. I howled, too much, no. It got easier. Shadow clone! I repeated the technique and fell to my knees. Damn! I said, raising my head. It seems I've released too much chakra. His face was in front of mine. I didn't have time to react. His hand pierced my chest. I suddenly felt lighter. Thick green chakra began to envelop my body. With that, the Shinigami vanished into thin air. My hand was clutching the amulet with the first one's chakra. I broke it myself? What the fuck was that? Turning my head, I saw Karen, pale as death itself. Did she see him, or was it because of the chakra? Holy shit. I tried to move toward her, but couldn't. A large hand landed on my shoulder. A terrible cough erupted, making not only me, but the red-haired girl shake as well. Slowly turning my head, I was stunned. A 2-meter-long, roasted skeleton with the remnants of flesh was preventing me from moving. What? They've come for me from hell. I won't give in to him that easily. I escaped one death, I'll escape another. He still doesn't feel quite so invincible. Stop, said the skeleton, who was slowly beginning to grow flesh. At this sight, Karen stopped pretending to be a statue and heroically threw a kunai at him, which bounced off a bone. The red-haired man's attack continued, and that's it. He's out of ammunition. Looking at this, the fiend of hell laughed, coughing horribly. His laughter was like a hyena's. It was about the same with I and Yujiro. I soon recognized the devil's features in him. My own? Damn, Yujiro, why the fuck did you rip my face apart like that? What's wrong with you? I asked, unable to resist. The local Ninetails did his best. It was clear he was in a really bad mood. Catch Karen, Yujiro barked, startling the girl, but she managed to snag a bundle of clothes that had appeared out of nowhere. "No, girl, that because of you, that idiot almost went after the Ninetales Jinchuriki alone." Karen cringed, tears streaming down her face. "Crying and crying won't help the burn heal. It's your fault that half his internal organs are fried to a crisp. I don't even know how he's still alive." The girl turned paler with every word he said. "Don't overdo it. It's my own fault. It was my decision," I said firmly, grabbing his arm. It was really hard to stand. "What were the chances that the Ninetales was there? Our combined reconnaissance didn't even detect it. Just like the Uzumaki underground hideout," he answered, helping me stand. The burning sensation subsided, and the fox's chakra began to rapidly fade. Yujiro's touch began to draw the poison out of me. Along with the relief of the pain easing, I grew weaker and weaker. "Minma, from this day forward, our paths part. I don't know how, but the Kyuubi can forcibly contact me through the inner world. You've already felt the effect of such a call." At that moment, I noticed that Yujiro was completely invisible in the inner world. Besides, the fox can forcibly contact him, which suggests that he's more a part of the fox than mine. "Then who are you?" "Oh, I got it. Quick, I'm glad you get your head around it sometimes," he said, more automatically than with any intention of insulting. "I can be described as a revived Bija chakra into which a personality, a module, and memories have been downloaded. So, I wasn't the only one who received a copy of the personality. That gave me a little creepiness." Wait, does this mean that the remaining chakra of Minato, Kushina, and even Hashirama was also overwritten? "It's complicated. Their chakra is very limited, so it's unlikely they'll revive on their own. So they can be revived. Even if they aren't real parents, it'll still be much better than not having them at all. Is there a way to help them come back to life?" Yujiro's eyebrow twitched, and soon he sighed sadly in my manner. "A pure physical chakra is needed. The spiritual one will develop on its own due to the implanted personality." "Thank you. What now? Are you going to go find a way to create a cozy world for yourself to live in?" "If only," Yujiro said dreamily, but his expression grew more irritated. "The fucking Otsutsuki. Those parasites won't let me live in peace. They'll suck all the chakra out of this world, and then move on to the neighboring ones. No matter how hard I hide, they'll get me." At that moment, I saw a radical difference between Yujiro and I. A normal guy wouldn't, for example, fight a hostile state, even if it seriously interfered with his normal life, but he clearly would. Even one look at that angry face is enough to understand that he's radically inclined. Kurama would probably act like that. So we have one goal. "Are you planning to stay here? What about your home world, where the world will end without you?" He abruptly changed his language. His words brought fear to Karen's face. Even I could see through such subtle manipulation of a girl. But he's right. The weight of responsibility won't let me live a normal life. No amount of selfishness would be enough, just as I wouldn't have the strength to abandon the red-haired girl alone. "I'll stay here. The chakra in this world is weaker, which means I have a better chance of survival. I propose cooperation until you find a way to accumulate enough chakra for a reverse summoning. You give me techniques, and I'll give you lessons in using natural energy." I agree, but what kind of technology do you need, and how will we communicate? "Anything. Give the scientifically insane department free rein, or beat the tech out of others. I don't care. I'll call you when I lose my tail of thick-browed swarms." Stop. For a moment, everything went dark before my eyes, and I found myself God knows where, lying on something soft. "What the hell? How?" I exclaimed, trying to look around. The pain throughout my body was terrible, but it was a far cry from what it felt when I was facing death. Right now, I'm more worried about fatigue and hunger than pain. I was in a cave, well furnished. Blue chakra torches lit it. In the middle of the cave was a whole pile of things with the inscription, "For the hamster." As I tried to stand up, I was racked with pain. Green chakra began to soak into my stomach. Everything inside me seemed to boil. Hot water poured from my mouth. Damn. I think I understand what Yujiro was talking about now. I collapsed on the floor, unable to even move. My chakra had vanished as well. I opened my eyes in my inner world, which presented a terrifying sight. The red, toxic fog obscured my vision so completely that I couldn't even see my outstretched hand. Oddly enough, it didn't hurt me one bit. It didn't even sting my eyes. Disperse, I shouted, and the fog cleared. It was better with him. Fuck, most of my inner world was a coal-black, scorched wasteland. The closest thing to this picture was my house, which was covered in a silvery crust and, apparently not even damaged. Threads of the same color stretched from the building in all directions, disappearing into the ground. As I got closer, I could see that green, clean grass had begun to grow next to them. Apparently, this is what the module looks like. I'm now more than ever glad that they put such a good thing inside me. When I went inside the house, I was able to confirm that the inside was undamaged. Now I just had to figure out just how fucked up everything was. Along with this thought, a monitor appeared in front of me with more or less detailed information about the problem. Inner world. 62.9% affected by QB's chakra. 18.7% restored. 2.4% subject to change due to contact with Hashirama's chakra. Fuck. So the first Hokage can actually take over my consciousness? I need to see it right now. Even the thought was enough to send me to a completely different place. The blooming silver garden that surrounded me felt like home. I'd never felt such peace and harmony. Wait, why is it silver? Module, can you count your parts in this garden? Oh shit. I shouldn't have done that. It certainly looks mesmerizing, but why the hell is it so bright? After that, everything became much more bearable. What can